Welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. It's time. We're gonna plant the flag on Eve and return safely to Kerbin. It's all been building up to this. So we have our Eve mission with our Ascent rocket already in orbit around Kerbin. We did that in the last episode. Jeb's up there waiting. So now we have to refuel it. So I'm going to do that with... Let me find it. I'm going to do that with this fueler mission that I built at the end of the last episode. The idea is just to get this fuel tank up and dock it with our Eve mission. And dump the fuel from this into our main tanks with our Eve mission. That's it. That's all this does. I'm probably gonna have to launch between 3 and 5 of these, depending on how the Delta V and how the trajectory and everything goes with each individual launch. Because I may have to burn some fuel out of that upper stage during the orbital insertion and the rendezvous and stuff. So that may... Alright, where are we? Oh, we're down here. That may be a factor. So in the interest of time, each one of these launches, and I'm going to fast forward some of this, doing the rendezvous with a big chonky rocket like this, and the docking is going to be kind of tedious and time-consuming, because moving huge, heavy things around with a couple of small RCS thrusters is a little bit of a pain in the butt. All right, Kraken Insurance. As you're going to see... Come on, Kraken Insurance? There we go. All right, so the plan is just to launch this up and rendezvous with our Eve mission. Do the docking and tank up. As I said, I'm probably going to have to tank up a couple of times. I'm probably going to clip and do the second through, like, 4th or 5th tanking missions off camera, just to save, the hour of time that's going to take. It's literally just going to be some identical missions doing exactly the same thing. So I'm going to show you what this is going to look like, how this runs through. Because this is the first time, I think, in this career that I've done an actual docking. As crazy as that is to think about, this very last mission is going to be the first time doing an actual docking. And the first time doing an orbital refueling. I know that... And part of that is because the focus on the career mode was... planting the flags. That's really been the focus, has just been on visiting all of the planets and returning to Kerbin. That said, in a normal career mode save, I would be doing, like, space station stuff, like, just for fun. But in this career, I've literally just been focused on planting the flags and everything, so... There hasn't really been a lot in the way of a need to do any orbital docking. You may remember I've been using the what could possibly go wrong spacewalk method to save time when I've needed to transfer crew in space. And all of my other launches have been monolithic. I haven't needed to do any orbital assembly or any orbital refueling. So this will actually be the first time, this very last mission. And it's simply because doing a monolithic launch for that Eve Ascent rocket, I'm sure from looking at it you can tell that would be an issue. So I don't do it that way. When I'm going to Eve, I just tank up in orbit. So that's what we're going to do. And I want to show you going through this at least once. And again, part of the other reason is that the 2.5 meter docking port doesn't actually get used very much. At least from, you know, what I've seen in the community over the years, in forums and Reddit and other people on YouTube and stuff. Like, everyone always seems to use the 1.25 meter docking port, you know, as their primary docking port more than any of the others. That's never really been my thing. Alright, so I need to go out a little more. And I need to let... Perfect. Alright, this is going to be... Yeah, this is going to be a big, chunky kind of... Alright, what did that do? Just thinking out loud here. Just doing some light little toots on the RCS. This intercept, this rendezvous is actually going really easy. Normally it takes a few more orbits, but I did good work with that. Now with this particular mission, there's no other way to say it, but you're gonna see me try a little harder to do some of the orbital mechanics and the maneuvers and everything, like the right way, so to speak, as opposed to the easy way. And it's because the Delta V and everything on this mission to Eve matters more than any of the others, really. I mean, arguably, Tilo... where's our thingy? Where's our target? Oh, there we are. You could arguably say that the mission to Tilo had, you know, I mean, it definitely did have some really stringent Delta V requirements and all that. But in my opinion, this is the big one. I'm gonna have to do it with a regular burn. This is the part of the intercept that's really stupid. Is just getting close. Once we actually get in close, the docking and everything isn't going to be too bad. But for example, when I mentioned I'm going to be trying a little harder, like specifically, I'm going to use the maneuver node tool, or I'm going to try to. Sometimes it doesn't work very well, but I wanna use that to try and actually get like an optimal transfer from Kerbin to Eve directly, because that is technically the best way to do it in terms of Delta V and efficiency. And I haven't been bothering, but, you know, for this mission... Oh, come on. For this mission, I've got to do it right. Alright, now I want to focus on this docking here. Alright, you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to orient this a little bit better. Okay, and we'll target this one. Alright, here we go. And if it's not already obvious, I mean, it'll become obvious by the end of this why I took so much monopropellant. Oh, and I should probably do some kraken insurance. I know some people like to use the docking interface down there, the docking mode for controls, but I don't. I always like to do just manual translation. Some people swear by the docking UI, but I've never really gotten a whole lot of use out of it. I've just been, and there's no special reason for that. There's nothing wrong with it. You know, it works fine. I've always just been more accustomed to the regular orbital controls, like you see me using here. All right, they're trying. The larger docking ports, part of the reason they're not as popular, they are a bit more difficult to stick. This does work. Literally, sometimes you just gotta, like, smush them together and wiggle a little bit. Because you've got a larger surface area that needs to line up, like, perfectly. And they do have a small amount of, like, magnetic force. You know, they are attracted to each other a little bit. Come on. Get in there. This does work. It really does. There we go. So yeah, like I said, sometimes you literally just have to smush them together and wiggle a little bit. All right, so now we're going to transfer fuel. I didn't stop in time, but that's fine. I've still got some RCS. Okay, so I am going to rename this as junk. And literally, I'm just going to burn the rest of my monopropellant to try and get my orbit down a bit. Hopefully onto like a suborbital trajectory and just crash this thing back into the planet. Because I don't need it, and I don't want to smack into it by accident as I'm time warping around or anything like that. So we've got, it's the other reason for all the monopropellant. We've got plenty of delta V left in that, even if it's very low efficiency. And we can do exactly this. We can just send our empty fuel tanker down onto a rendezvous with the planet surface to do some high-quality litho braking. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to clip here just to save your time, even though this is going to take me at least an hour or so. I'm going to go through and I'm going to tank up again like you just saw. I'm going to repeat that like 3 to 4 more times until my fuel tanks up there are full. So I will be back in just a minute. Okay, we have just finished tanking up our Eve mission. We've got our last fueler here. I'm sending down into a suborbital trajectory with what is left of its fuel. I modified the design somewhat. After the second launch, I added some lights that make it a little bit easier to... to handle this thing. Come on. To do the docking at night. So our Eve mission is fully refueled. Now it's going to be time to plot an intercept with Eve. Now... oh yeah, we've got all this. This is where things can get a little weird. Alright, let me see what I can get. Oh, that's not bad. Only 1,000 delta V. That's not bad at all. And how far away is that? 1 year, 36 days, 4 hours. Alright. That is worth it. Because that's actually a very good intercept. Because if you look, here's the ascending node. We're intersecting with Eve, like right on the descending node. So with some minor adjustments, we don't have a lot of monopropellant, but we might be able to, frankly, we don't really have RCS units, but we might be able to adjust this into a slightly better orbit. So what I'm going to do right now, can I create... I hate the interface for this. I'm just going to do it live. Do it manually. Alright. Yeah, alright. See, it says create alarm, and we've got that, but it's not clear. Alright, I'm just gonna time warp here. I don't use this alarm clock interface very often. I prefer Kerbal alarm clock. But, alright. And I'll fast forward through this so it only takes a second for you. Okay. We're close. Let's Be a couple of more days here. Oh, I just realized something. Look at this. The moon might be very much in the way. No. Alright, good. That was a little worrisome. Well, it might still. I may have to burn a little early or something to avoid the moon getting in the way. But at this point we're close, so you know, the absolute precision isn't super necessary here. But what I'm going to do in preparation for the burn, I'm going to set my autopilot. Oh, that's interesting. It says it needs 3,000 delta V. That isn't right. Alright, let me save. That might just be an effect of the time warping we did or something. Let me try... Let me try that again. Okay, that looks much better. And it did it for 8 days out. But we're in the ballpark of what we need. And that's good. That's still a good intercept. So I'm actually going to do this burn relatively soon here. Now, what I'm doing is I am pre-orienting my vessel here, and our autopilot is going towards the maneuver node. And I'm going to leave it that way throughout the burn. And that's to save a little bit of time later on. Now, one thing you're going to notice is until we dump our main stage there, I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of physics warp. Oh, it's going to be stupid like that. All right. Well, I may have to redo that maneuver node, but let's hope for the best here. I'm going to go up to X2. Alright, that's really close. I should be able to do a quick manual correction from here. Let me get out of Kerbin. And once we're in orbit around the sun, the patched conic will be a little bit easier to manipulate. Excellent. You know what? I'll worry about that after the fact. All I'm going to do for right now is allow the autopilot to orient me towards this maneuver. This is a little bit more of a correction than I wanted to do, but it should still be okay. And we're just waiting on our time warp here. Okay, Kraken Insurance. Alright, there's our intercept. Now let's look at it. Alright, it's kind of a mess. I want to get the intercept a little closer to the equatorial plane. So let's see what I can do to try and affect that. This is where I'm gonna do this trick. Okay, we are coming in on the wrong side of the planet. So that is problem number one. And... oh. Come on. This I'm gonna fast forward through this. What I have to do here is gonna be very tedious, just going back and forth, fighting with the user interface. Okay, so this is better, but it's going to cost a lot of Delta V. But I don't have a whole lot of choice. The issue with what I was just doing is literally just that the user interface for manipulating the hotspots on the maneuver node aren't sensitive enough, and like when you're at an angle like this, they're like kind of behind each other, and as you saw, I had to do a lot of messing around with the camera in order to, you know, actually get this to kind of do what I wanted it to do. It was a real hassle. Alright, so I'm going to warp, and then I'm going to execute this maneuver. It's going to be kind of gross, but it's the best option I've got. right, and oh yeah, I don't want to do time warp that way. I was wondering why that was taking so long. It was in physics warp, not time warp. Alright, so I'm going to do some kraken insurance, and I'm going to execute this burn. Close enough. Well, yeah, that'll work. Okay. We had to burn a lot more fuel than I wanted to with that maneuver. But not a whole lot of choice. Now, what I'm going to do, again, to reset my camera, I'm just going to switch to something else and then switch back to our Eve mission, because I still don't know a good way to reset the camera after I've focused on a planet. And I'm sure somebody has already dropped a comment on one of my previous episodes by now telling me how to do that, because I'm sure there is a trick to do it. I just don't happen to know off the top of my head, and I've never bothered to figure it out, so it's fine. All right. Now, I just gotta hope that I have enough Delta V to do a retro burn when I get to Eve. That's the real, like, $1 million question. Ooh, kraken insurance. You can't tell, but I'm really nervous right now. This is very high stakes. Because if to be real blunt about it, I mean, if I screw this up, I lose Jeb. There's really no chance of a rescue mission or anything. I mean, there is, but it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be practical in the slightest. So I'm just paying close attention to our time warp targets. Just going to kraken insurance again out here. Oh, of course, I'm fighting the alarm clock stuff. Okay. We have entered Eve's sphere of influence. Right, the good news is we're not at a super high velocity. So I should be able to swing this back around and do a retro burn. Come on. There we go. Very, very slowly. Yeah, reaction wheels and doing these sort of like pitch maneuvers on a big hunk of dead weight like this is tricky. Is very tricky. All right, retro burn. Well, we're closer to a retro burn here. Let's go down into our periapsis. We actually got a decently low periapsis. My hope, I don't know if I'm going to have the delta V to do it, but my hope is to bring this down to an orbit of around 200,000, less if I can help it. Because my descent stage, that mainsail engine with the 375 tank actually doesn't have a lot of delta V. I think that's only got like 500 delta V because it's moving a lot of weight. So that's literally just for my orbital insertion burn. I have to... Okay, good. I think that means, yes, we are in orbit around Eve. Ooh. That means that this main stage that we tanked up and refueled has to provide the majority of our energy for all this nonsense we have to do out here. Now, this isn't too bad. I mean, this is a weird, stupid elliptical orbit at a dumb inclination, but if I can get an equatorial crossover on the sun's side, I can make this work. And again, this doesn't have to be a precision landing. When we landed those probes, the purpose of those were not to mark specific points, but to flag like general geographical regions, if you remember. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of delta V left. This is going to be real tough. Oh boy. All right, I'm going to be cutting this real close. This is actually going to be a very dangerous entry into Eve's atmosphere. Let me tip this around, and maybe on the next orbit I'll do some kind of a retro burn. Entry into Eve's atmosphere, by the way, is usually at around 3,000 meters per second, if memory serves. So I've got like 1,000 delta V I would need to bleed off, and I'm not going to have it. So this is going to be a high angle trajectory no matter what I do. Oh, man. Kraken insurance, just in case our staging got messed up or something. Okay, yeah, about 500 meters per second of delta V, so not much. Let's zip around again, because it's more efficient to burn at the periapsis. All right. I think that's about all I can afford to spend for Delta V. This is going to be a very high speed, high risk entry. So let me go over the plan here. before I actually try and do it. And I may have to rely on loading a save state or two, fighting user interface and the kraken. So I'm going to wait until one of these bases, I'll try it this first one, is roughly like here or something. And I'll try and, I'll slow down out here near my apoapsis because the atmospheric drag from Eve is going to be huge. So I'm going to aim, if I want to land like on the equator here, I want to do an orbital entry like maybe back around here. Because this is going to slow me down real quick. And again, this doesn't have to be a precision landing. I was simply flagging large regions that were not in the ocean. So that's what I'm going to do for the orbital insertion, for the atmospheric insertion. Now, after I jettison the descent stage, we have the inflatable heat shield here. We're going to open that first, and we're going to open our inflatable heat shields out on the side. If we start to tumble around, I will open the inflatable heat shield out here in front. Now, after we have slowed down into, and of course this is like the actual atmospheric entry, we're going to be under a lot of weird aerodynamic forces. There's going to be a lot of manual control I have to do. It's prone to error, just due to the kraken. Excuse me. Because some of the parts clipping on these heat shields, it can cause weird issues, and you can't deflate them or anything. So when it comes time to jettison the heat shields, that is the highest likelihood of running into the kraken. Because they're going to have a very high likelihood of spazzing out because they're part clipped slightly with each other and like flipping around over here and blowing up the top half of the rocket, or flipping around down here and like taking out a booster tank. They're going to have a good chance of kraken spaz that I can't do much to prevent. So there's probably going to be some, F5, F9 save state reloading once we get to that point. And please don't judge me too harshly. It is purely going to be a result of fighting the kraken. I also need to set up my stages correctly. That'll help. Now, after we get rid of all the heat shields, we're going to pop these two parachutes first that are going to orient us correctly so that we're vertical relative to the surface. Then after we've got this landing pad, kind of close-ish to being pointed down, then we'll pop the rest of our parachutes. Our target landing is for less than 15 meters per second. You might think that I'm crazy for trying to land with no retrograde thrust on parachutes only with this big ridiculous thing. But Eve's atmosphere is really thick. And in the past, I have been able to make stuff like this work. I don't know how well it's going to work here. I mean, I won't know until I try it. So this is extremely high risk. Because if the parachutes are not enough, I've wasted all of this time. And I have to start from scratch. And that's a real pain in the ass. So that's what we're looking at. So first, let's get some time warp going. And get one of those bases. Those potential like landing regions around into the light side of the planet. Couple more orbits. All right. We're getting there. I think I'll do one more orbit. All right. So I'm going to save here. And if this doesn't work, I'll have to clip and reload and come back out. But this is where we're going to be going to. So now I'm going to come out here and do a retro burn. A little bit closer to the apoapsis. And I need to get my periapsis. My target is like 60,000, but I don't know what my fuel is going to get me because I had to burn more than I wanted. Okay. That actually worked out okay. So yeah, all right, I'm coming in kind of long. That's fine. Well, maybe it's not. We'll find out. I'm probably going to land, like, up in this area. But, you know, as I said, if it doesn't work out, I'll end up just reloading the save. Similar to kind of what I had to do on Lethe. Alright, so now what I need to do is I need to orient myself. I suppose I'm kind of going the long way, but I already got the momentum. And I'm going to leave this on autopilot to retrograde. For this whole descent. And that'll just make the manual inputs a little easier. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to dump the last of my fuel and just burn off as much speed as I can. Because honestly, believe it or not, the closer you can come into a vertical drop, the easier this entry into Eve ends up being. Alright. Now I think... Yes. Oh no! Oh, I did them out of order. Alright. Crud. I'll just have to deal with it. And I'm just, I'm stopping there, here and there. All right. Now we're in the atmosphere. So this may look gentle for the first 20 seconds or so. But it's gonna get real scary real quick. Yeah, I really didn't want to inflate that. I got my action groups out of order. So I may have to reload that just to correct that mistake. But in any case, this is what the atmospheric entry kind of looks like. And I'm going to switch that to AGL. Coming in over the highlands, that's still a biome we'd like to be in. Midlands is okay. As long as we don't get like explodium seas or shores, we're probably okay. If we can keep one of these landed biomes once we get vertical. But I might not have a lot to say for a moment here. I just got to pay close attention and watch these numbers and stuff. All right. Yeah, that's what I was worried about. So I'm going to have to reload that. There was too much atmospheric drag laterally from that top one, and you saw what was happening. It was kind of spinning me around a little bit, and that was an issue. I'm also going to make sure, okay, we'll make sure that these are auto-strutted. That might have also been part of the problem. All right, so let's do our burn. Actually, let's save now that we've auto-strutted. And I apologize for having to rely on the save states for the atmospheric entry here, like I did on Lethe. Honestly, I feel kind of crappy about that, but there's just so much that can go wrong with the first use of a design like this. It's just so hard to predict where the problems are going to be. Where, you know, in real life, I mean, you'd send an unmanned probe version of this whole thing, you know, with a probe core instead of a crew member up top. And, you know, you do 3 or 4 of them to figure out where the problems are before you tried a manned landing. Alright, so 1 and 3. There we go. And let's make sure that that is auto-strutted. Okay. Alright, so here we go for the second try. And if you remember, on that first attempt, everything was fine up until, like, you know, we started wobbling and we just exploded. So that's kind of what we're up against. All right, yeah, we're really high, but that's fine. I mean, honestly, as long as I can get this crew capsule into orbit, I've got tons of Delta V and that Talos X to do a weird rendezvous if I have to. All right. That's why... Yep. Oh! Alright, it's happening again. So it's... The timing to prevent that rotation is going to be the tough part. I may have to play a little bit more manually. And in fact, you know what? This time, I'll even come in a little bit more gentle. How's that? And let's jettison our stage out here. Just so there's less chance of it coming back to be in the way. Again, I would prefer to have this a shallower dive, or I'm sorry, a deeper dive, but it may work better doing the shallow dive. We'll see. Get out of here. Get. Get. Oh, that was close. Alright, I'm not going to do any time warp or anything on this. I'm just going to try and... holding my breath here. Okay, this is interesting. That might have worked like an aero brake maneuver. And might not have dipped us low enough to actually get our periapsis down. But that's okay if that happens. That's probably okay. That might actually be a good thing, maybe? Because then we'd be coming into the atmosphere with less speed to bleed off. So this might have turned into an improvised aerobraking maneuver, which honestly I can live with if that's the case. Nope, 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 nope. No, 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 no. Oh. Alright, that was kind of scary. Alright, we brought our apoapsis down by quite a bit. Alright, I'm going to see what I can do to fast forward back around. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. We lost one of our nose cones. That's going to be a problem on ascent. because we're going to have some aerodynamic asymmetry on the first stage. That's going to definitely be an issue. How much of an issue is hard to say. But all right, I'm going to try and focus on this entry here. No, 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 no. Oh. It's probably going to explode. Yep. Yeah, there's joints and stuff that are about to pop. There we go. All right. Well, so this process is what we have to do the entry. I'm gonna clip until I get one that works. I know that this can work. I've landed things like this in the past. It's just going to be a lot of trial and error until I get an entry that doesn't flip around quite as much. So I will be back in just a moment. Okay. So I think this one might be the keeper. The secret ended up being to try and do a spiral rotation like a bullet that helped stabilize so that we didn't start to do this stupid wobble until like really late in. And it also spread out the aerodynamic forces on these heat shields and stuff. So I'm going to have to do a lot real quick here. I might do a voiceover in the edit because I'm not going to be able to talk about it as I'm doing this. I'm going to do Kraken Insurance real quick. And I'm going to try and jettison these heat shields. I got in this far in the atmosphere once before, but I forgot to do the Kraken Insurance. So when I jettisoned the heat shields, it blew everything up, and I had to reload. I had to do it a dozen more times. It's a real pain in the butt. So now I'm going to try and jettison these heat shields and hopefully avoid the Kraken as I do it. And I remember to do the save this time. That's what I'm up against. It's not design, it's not player skill, it's not anything. I'm fighting the Kraken. So I'm going to have to reload, but like you can see there, that's the kind of nonsense I'm up against. It's just fighting the Kraken. But after quite a few tries, I did finally get this stupid thing into the atmosphere. Come on, load without exploding. That'll be the catch. Because if this loads into a Kraken, I don't know what I'm gonna do. All right, that looked like it was close. All right, let me try this. Let me try getting. Oh, crud. All right. I was going to say, let me try getting a little lower so that the aerodynamic forces aren't quite as bad. Ugh. What a hassle. But yeah, so the secret ended up being I did a couple of aero brake maneuvers to bring my apoapsis down to around like 250,000. That was this entry burn, or this entry. And now it's just the matter. Of course, I did that a couple of times. I got it to work once, but I forgot to save at this point. And when I started releasing the heat shields, I got the kraken. And when I had to reload my autosave, I was way back up in the original orbit before all the aero braking or anything. It was extremely tedious. I've been at this for well over an hour and a half. So I'm a little frustrated. You'll have to excuse me. So I'm going to do a save. All right, let me try and jettison out here. All right, yep, this is how it's been going. Because that jettison is not supposed to have any explosive force or anything. I mean, it's literally just supposed to release it gently. But even just doing that, you know, the kraken comes out to smack us. We're getting, like, catastrophic explosions. Let me try... Of course, we're tumbling too bad for me to click on it. I was going to say, let me try and do the undocking. I'm going to lose too much altitude while I'm screwing around with that. That was better. That was better. That was not better. So I may have to do another clip here, but you see what I'm up against. Like I said, I've been at this for a long time. I'm sorry, I'm kind of losing my patience. Just because I'm fighting the kraken. I mean, the design is sound. I'm just fighting the game engine. Well, that wasn't super hot. Oh, great, we're losing an engine. Yeah, I'm going to have to clip and just trial and error this again. I'll be back in another 90 minutes. Alright, so this is the best I've gotten. I've been at it for almost an hour. Alright, this one might be a winner. But I gotta undock this stupid thing. Okay. Okay. Oh gosh. It has taken an extremely long amount of time to get to this point. But this might be the winner. Alright, so... God, I don't even know how long it's been. I'm looking at the clock. Since I started this entry, over like 2 hours, 20 minutes or so have passed. Yeah. So it's been frustrating. You'll have to excuse me if I'm a little fatigued. Anyway. And I didn't make you sit through that. But this shows this design can work. It's just the kraken in Eve's atmosphere with large objects is very, very potent. So, where was I? Yeah. So you can see, even with 2 parachutes, we have slowed this to 28 meters per second. So I'm going to pop the rest, and I'm going to save. That's another thing to mention. I made the same mistake again because I'm stupid. I was able to get all the heat shields and stuff jettisoned, but had problems with the parachute deployment, and they got tangled up because I deployed the parachutes too early, and my rocket wasn't fully righted, and it flipped and exploded, and I had forgotten to save after jettisoning the heat shields. So I'm sorry for showing some frustration here and being a little salty. This has been rough, but it is working. There we go. All right, so let's see what that... Look at that. This gets us down to 8 meters per second. So I am not going to warp this, but I am going to fast forward it. Because at this point, I'm going to F5. I guess maybe I'll warp it by 2. But I don't want to do too much on the physics with this. Because we're over land. It doesn't look like it. Well, it's hard to tell how much of a slope this is. It doesn't look too bad, but, we're looking straight down, so who knows. Oh, look, there goes one of our stupid kraken shields. Alright, this is on a little bit of a slope. Hopefully we'll be okay and we don't tip over, because that will be beyond frustrating. Kraken insurance. Okay. We're going to get the crew report, because we're not going to be able to get much other science. I'm noticing that we are slowly moving. We're slowly sliding down this hill, and I'm not super excited about that. So, ooh, that doesn't look good. Okay. That definitely doesn't look good. I'm gonna auto-strut this stuff. Just for good measure, just making extra sure. Alright. Well, anyway, I'll worry about that in a minute. For right now, I'll do Jeb. We'll do our EVA onto the... That felt like an explosion. But we're going to do our EVA onto the surface of Eve, and we're going to take a surface sample that we're not going to be able to take with us. And we'll do an EVA report that we won't take with us. And we will plant the flag on Eve. And this has been an absolute disaster, so we will name this mission the Xarces 1. After dozens of reloads, after dozens of cashing in on kraken insurance, and several hours of real time, we finally landed on Eve. Now we just have to get back into orbit. I'm a little nervous about this. But I'm worried. See, I'm going to do another kraken insurance before I launch. But I'm worried that if I do a load, that's going to get all screwy and stupid. But, alright. So, the idea here... I don't even know... Okay, we're nowhere near the equator. But it doesn't matter. If I can get into space and get into orbit, I have a lot of delta V in the Talos X. Here we go. Now, I can't do too much of an aero, a gravity turn early on. With this launch, I need to stay pretty close to straight vertical for a long time. Because Eve's atmosphere is super thick. Goodbye, Eve. Goodbye, parts that are still falling off of our rocket. Oh, man. Yeah, you can't tell, but my pulse is crazy right now. I don't even want to think about my blood pressure. This has been very, very stressful, but we're getting it done. All right, I'm past 400. That's usually kind of my cutoff. All right, now this is normal. This is expected to slow down for a second before we start gaining speed again. That's because the thrust-to-weight ratio on this with the asparagus isn't great. But it's fine. We did this for the delta V, not for the thrust-to-weight ratio. All right, we're getting speed up again. You notice I haven't even started a gravity turn. And I'm not going to. Literally, at this point, the whole idea is just to get that apoapsis as high as I possibly can before I stage into that aerospike engine. I want to get up to 100K at least. And it looks like I'm going to make it. Oh, tell me I'm going to make this on the first try. After all that trouble with the landing, usually it's the ascent that's more of a problem. All right, here we go. Moment of truth. This stage has a very bad tendency to flip over. Look at that. That's beautiful. Oh boy. Now the good news is you can see there we have a fair amount of delta V in this stage. I'm going to be shocked if after probably at least 50 attempts at the landing it took before I got that to work. I'm going to be shocked if I get a stable orbit on the first try. But I'll take it. I mean... Alright, so after a time warp, we seem to have fixed our weird part collision there. But we still have our crew report from the surface of Eve, even though this design didn't allow us to collect a sample or anything like that. Wow. Wow. All right, well, let's see. After all that, kraken insurance for damn sure. All right. I can't believe that worked on the first ascent. But that goes to show you, right? The ascent rocket, the design was sound. Look at, I'm not even in my final state. Look at the margin of error I had on the ascent. Getting that thing into the atmosphere without the kraken is the hard part. Oh, man. The end is in sight. It's just one more rendezvous and one more transfer back to Kerbin. And and then this career is basically complete. Yeah, that's the good news with this particular. Oops, that's the good news with this particular upper stage. It it has a significant amount of delta V because there's nothing to it. It's just an engine and a Mark One command pod. So I can spend some delta V to circularize my orbit and make the intercept for Talos X a little easier. I'm sorry, not to circularize, to equatorialize my orbit. Actually, you know what? The thrust to weight ratio is going to be better, so I'll try and do the intercept from here. Maybe we'll get lucky, and we will have built the or designed at least the ascent vehicle that well, entry shields notwithstanding, that we had so much delta V we could do the rendezvous with the orbital stage. Like normally the point was for that aerospike stage just to get us like, you know, over 100,000 apoapsis, optimally like 120, and like a quarter of the way around in orbit. That's the usual goal for that. All right, where is our... How close are we? We're close. Okay, I'm going to be able to do the rendezvous with this. Unbelievable. Well, I needed something to go right. I really needed something to go right. Man, this has been a very stressful time, and I apologize for being a little bent out of shape. But I don't think you wanted to, and for like doing the excessive clipping, but I don't think you wanted to watch me be frustrated for, you know, several hours of just fighting the kraken, because it is vicious. But we made it. Oh, it's going to do that to me. All right. That's fine. I mean, I can take it easy at this point. The hard part is over. And by the way, save. Oh, and it's still going to do that to me. The trajectory is just going to keep screwing up on the time warp. So I'm going to have to do it here. That's fine. So lessons learned from the problems we had with the kraken. If I had to do that again, what would I change? those 4 lateral heat shields, I would have increased it to 8. I would have put those 4 lower, and I would have had another 4 higher up, and I would have put them a little further out so that they weren't clipping into each other at all. And I would have overloaded the struts for the whole thing and made like a big balloon around my vehicle. That's what I would have done differently, because hopefully that would have alleviated some of the kraken issues we had. Because I'm fairly well. The problem is like detaching and jettisoning those big inflatable heat shields is always the real problem. Like that's the real problem. Because as much as I had to fight with the atmospheric tumbling and everything, jettisoning the heat. Oh boy. Jettisoning the heat shields, yeah, was an issue. But all right, let me. That thing's spinning off in the distance. All right, Jeb, doing your leap of faith here. Get back in there and tell everybody what you just did. You just planted the flag on Eve. Heck yes. All right. Speaking of which, let's get the heck out of Eve. So overall, I hope it's obvious why I saved the Eve mission for last. This was the most time-consuming in terms of in-game time, in terms of real-life time on the clock. I mean, all of the above. It was just tedious and frustrating beyond belief. And it always stresses me out whenever I do it. So I knew that one was going to be rough. Anticipated its roughness, and did it last. But hopefully, if you've been following along, or like trying to recreate any of my missions, hopefully the problems I had with entry into Eve's atmosphere were educational and demonstrated some of the problems. Like I've seen a lot of people do a lot of weird designs for entering Eve's atmosphere. There's one method where you overbuild your descent stage where you can just cancel out, you have like 3,000 meters per second of delta V, and you can just cancel out all of your orbital velocity and drop straight down with just a couple of regular heat shields. I've seen like ultralight designs that try and, do an ascent vehicle out of a command chair. Strapped on top of like a couple of the small diameter solid rocket boosters and stuff like that. I mean, there's no wrong way to do it, and there's no strictly right way to do it. All right, well that's useless. All right, let me. We are nowhere near where we need to be in terms of Kerbin's orbit. Let's try out here, and maybe we'll get lucky. Nope. Maybe in another year? Another year and a half. Okay. So, the silver lining, of course, right, is that as you saw, building the landing platform out of those structural plates was key. In my experience, and I am by no means an expert at Kerbal Space Program. You know, as I always say, speaking very generally, I consider myself to be an average gamer in all of the games that I play. This, War Thunder, any of it. The constructed launch pad out of the structural plates provides so much margin for error in terms of our landing and everything, like where we can land. Trying to land on landing legs on that sort of with that sort of a tall rocket is going to be a lot more prone to tipping over than landing that platform, that flat platform. So that really does make the whole thing a hell of a lot easier. And if I am 100% confident that if I had built that mission to try and land that stupid rocket with landing legs, that would have been an extremely frustrating descent. And I would have spent another hour or however longer fighting the Kraken on having my rocket tip over. That wouldn't even be fighting the Kraken. That would just be like poor design to be having the rocket flip over. Because it was on landing legs that just aren't sturdy enough. The launch platform strutted like a mofo is, in my opinion, as a non-expert, but you just saw me do it. In my opinion, that is the safest way to land in an Eve ascent vehicle. And I've tried it a bunch of different ways. You know, over the years, I've done the Eve mission a few times. And I've used different methods. You know, some work better than others. But in my experience, in my opinion, what you just saw was the easiest way. The Kraken always comes out to bite you in the atmosphere, though. Like, Eve's atmosphere is just an abject disaster. Honestly, you know, based on, like, discussions I've been in on the forums and on Reddit and stuff like that, I think a lot of people opt to do the space plane thing on Eve simply because of how hungry the Kraken is for traditional ascent rockets like the one we just used. And I mean, make no mistake, that Kraken was hungry. I spent hours reloading the stupid saves, getting that to work. But it was important. It was important to me, at least, that I demonstrate that the design worked at all, at least once. And, you know, if I was being lazy, what I would have done... Well, I shouldn't even say that, but... Another thing that I've done in earlier career modes, before I really had the engineering experience to build an ascent rocket for Eve, I would the landing on Eve would be a one-way trip. And I would construct it as a surface base rather than as an ascent rocket. You know, I'd use like the science lab as like a habitation module, you know, that kind of a thing. I mean, like I'd build like a little base and I'd try and send a couple of more components to it and like a little rover, you know, and I'd have like a little surface base for 3 Kerbals. And I'd just kind of leave them there and consider that good enough and not try and get them back. But for this career, you know, again, the whole point has been to do the flags and return to Kerbin safely from each landing. That's been the primary objective, and I'm happy to say the end is in sight. We're almost there. Oh, come on. Don't tell me that that we lost our intercept. I didn't skip through it or anything, did I? Oh, there we are. Whoa, slow down. All right. Yeah, this is a weird, disgusting intercept, but it doesn't matter. Delta V to fix this. Not important. Doesn't matter where we land. All we gotta do is get down there. Man, I can't believe all that is finally over. Not, I shouldn't say it like that, but that it's finally accomplished. Walked on the surface of Eve. Yeah. Yeah. That was a tough one, for sure. Almost home. Okay. And so one of the annoying things I had to do, right, and I want to take a minute to mention this before I forget. The Kraken with those heat shields was such a problem that I literally had to do individual F5 save states for each heat shield. I had to jettison one, you know, keep trying to jettison one of them until I got one to detach safely. Then I had to save, try to jettison another until I got a second one to detach safely. Save again. Try to jettison a third until I got a third one to detach safely. And do it like that. It was extremely tedious. You know what? I don't need all that Delta V. I'm sorry, I don't need all that. Yeah, all that Delta V from that asparagus stage. Not necessary. You know, I'm going to live dangerously. I'm just going to come down from here. We should have enough. We should have enough heat shield for this to be a perfectly fine re-entry. Even though we're coming in, like, the wrong way. It's all good. It's all good in the hood. And unlike Eve, we're generally not up against the Kraken landing home on Kerbin. One last save. And yes, I know I'm coming in the wrong way, but shouldn't matter. Famous last words, right? But I mean, after everything we've just been through, if this is the part, like the last step, I realize I'm tempting fate pretty bad, but I did save out there. So if I really needed to, I can load the save and use the excessive delta V. But we should probably be fine. Ooh, okay. If we would have collided with that, oh man, that would not have been good. My heart stopped for a second there as I saw that flying back towards me. Oh. That would not have been good. Yeah, we're doing fine on this entry. We've got tons of ablator left. These ablative heat shields, like they're extremely good. There's no other way to say it. They're extremely good. Kraken Insurance one last time. Coming down over the highlands with our precious crew report from Eve's Highlands. As our scientific proof that we made it back from the surface of Eve, in addition to having the flag planted. But it's okay. I'm sure there will be all kinds of Kerbal conspiracy theorists that insist that the Eve landing was faked on a soundstage. Wow. Okay, so we have finished up. That is about going to do it for this series. I have played a lot of Kerbal Space Program over the last couple of weeks recording these episodes. So I'm probably going to take a break from it for at least a couple of months. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'll put a poll up and see what people want for like the next episodic series. Maybe they'll want more Kerbal. Who knows? But yeah, this has been crazy. I mean, it's been a lot of fun. Got a flag planted on all of the planets. Mostly stock, only one or two custom parts really that I've used. I will post a quick little fun retrospective on... Yep, none lost. I'll post a quick little retrospective kind of a video on this career, but I'm going to call that a victory. So as always, thanks for watching, and a double thanks if you've actually been following the whole series and not just this episode to see the Eve landing.